Thanks for coming out today. My name is David Sassoon. I'm the founder and publisher of InsideClimateNews. Brief word about our news organization. We're 5 years old. There are 7 of us that do this work. We focus exclusively on climate and energy issues. And we have our own website, but we also have our work published by other organizations, including Bloomberg, Associated Press, and McClatchy. And what we do is we go after stories in a deep and comprehensive way, sometimes investigative, sometimes narrative. We try to fill gaps in coverage that other media are not covering. And that explains part of the reason why we embarked on this project with Osha and the Heinrich Boell Foundation. It seemed to us that there was a very important story to be told about the transformation of the energy economy in Germany, and we had been wanting to do it for a long time. And really what we're here to discuss is the story of a modern industrial economy that has cracked the code on renewable energy. It's done something that is deemed impossible in this country. Most people would think so. Yet, Germany is on its way to decarbonizing its power sector in a very profound way. And as Osha reports in his book, there's no turning back. So it's a really interesting story. And what's surprising to us is that it's as if Germany landed a woman on Mars, and we're just finding out about it. I mean, it's unbelievable that this story is not well known. And maybe in the new climate here in the new context we have after a devastating hurricane, after a surprising election, that maybe the conversation will be able to embrace a story like this and start to have a more interesting discussion. I'm just going to speak very briefly to and make some introductions and say some thank yous. If you haven't noticed, Senator Whitehouse is not here. He had to cancel. I think he's on the edge of a cliff. And also Chris Flavin, who was going to come here and who wrote the afterword to the book, had to go to Berlin. So I'll introduce the others in a minute, but I just wanted to let you know that if you hadn't noticed. There's one story I thought of yesterday that I want to tell that takes place in the early 1980s. I was serving as a United Nations volunteer based in Kathmandu, Nepal. I was there for 4 years. And I would often go on, as part of my job, to remote villages where somebody like me showing up was a rare event. And what would invariably happen is the children would gather around. They'd follow me. They would flock around me and they'd say, "What country? What country?" And I'd say, "America." And whenever I said America, I would get this one question. They would say to me, "Have you been to the moon?" And their eyes were wide open. "Chandra Magai ko cha? Have you been to the moon?" They were so full of expectation and hope and this sense of possibility. They thought everybody in America goes to the moon. And maybe if they talked to me, they could go to the moon. And this is one of the poorest countries on the planet. You know, these kids barefoot, you can imagine what, you know, an amazing country. I'm not sure why I need to tell that story. I have, you know, some thoughts in my mind, but maybe we can refer to it. I think part of it is because the story that Osha has to tell, there's a part of it that's hard to swallow for American audiences, and that part is that maybe on the energy question, the nation stopped going to the moon. You know, there's been talk over the years, as advocates have been saying, we need to transfer to a renewable energy economy. It's always been talked of as a moonshot effort. We hear that a lot over the years. You know, this is one moonshot we didn't go on. And during those years, when I was in those villages, those 4 years were the first term of the Reagan presidency, when the solar panels came off the White House, and when this nation stopped going on that journey. So the other part of the story, though, is more important and more hopeful and really, really interesting, and it's what we're going to hear about today. And that is what is possible. What is possible when a democracy is responsive, when self-reliant citizens take action, when a national vision is forged. And it's an inspiring story. So we're hoping that this work will help change the conversation in this country, frankly. I mean, it really does, it's a real big contribution. A couple of thank yous. Rebecca Bertram, Heinrich Boell Foundation, partner in putting this together with us, and also another one of our funders, the Rockefeller Brothers Fund. And also someone who's not here, Susan White, who was the editor on this project. She is one of the most important invisible presences in journalism. She's a great, great editor and an inspiration. And she's our executive editor, and she worked hand in glove with Osha. And she deserves tremendous recognition, and she's always one to not seek it. And but I just want to call her out because she's quite extraordinary. Okay, so let me do some introductions. Start with Osha. I almost want to read aloud some of his work on this book. His storytelling is extraordinary, and his reporting is deep and detailed. And he's produced something that I think really gets at some of the most essential truths that we need to hear about energy and how to solve some of the most difficult problems. One of my favorite things is he quotes Hans Joseph Fell as saying that they're not facing problems, for example, energy storage or different challenges. He says these are tasks. It's such a, and the storytelling proceeds on very significant comments like that woven together. I mean, it's really an extraordinary piece of work. And Osha's been a writer for a long time. He's written for Rolling Stone. He's written many books. And we've had a great collaboration. So thank you and congratulations on what you've done. On the other end, Eric Roston. He also is an author. He's written a book called The Carbon Age, which I highly recommend. And he is also the sustainability editor at Bloomberg News. He runs a blog called The Grid. And he's going to be talking in part about the media's coverage of Germany and try to get at why we are still ignorant in this country about what's going on over there. Anya, right here in the orange, Anya Schoolman. We are, she's very active in Washington, D.C. area in the solar energy business. She runs a cooperative and, a community power network. Can I call it a cooperative?
I have two things. So it's a local cooperative and a national network. That's why it's confusing.
Okay. But she's worked at EPA. She's been a strategic advisor to NGOs and foundations, and she's going to talk to us. What was up here? Tell me again what you're going to talk to us
On political lessons from Germany for America and what's happening in the U.S.
Great, great. And lastly, Arne Jungjohann, who is from the Heinrich Boell Foundation, and he's going to be our moderator today. And he's been promoting solutions toward a low-carbon economy. He's been involved in the Global Climate Treaty. He is the director for the Environment and Global Dialogue Program at Heinrich Boell. And he's also been a senior advisor to the Green Party, worked on the Renewable Energy Act, and has contributed to public media. With that, I'll turn it over to Arne. Welcome to everybody, and welcome to our panelists.
Thank you for the kind introduction, David, and good morning, everyone. Glad to see so many of you here, and glad to be here with colleagues on the panel. Just a few quick words from my side. For those of you who may not know, I know many of you know the Heinrich Boell Foundation, but we are somewhat a think tank of the German Green Party. It's a global network of 30 offices. This one based in Washington, D.C. here. We work on a variety of green issues, but I think environment, climate issues are very core to the work of the foundation. And what we try to do is to foster transatlantic relations or international relations on these kind of issues. And we see our role here in Washington to every once in a while inject experiences of Europe or Germany in particular to help nudge issues here in a certain direction that we think is of a good cause. And this event today is embedded in a broader project that we are running for over 2 years. It's called the Climate Network, and that's a transatlantic program that we are doing over the course of 2 years with exchange groups, delegations going from the US to Germany or the other way around, supporting journalists or fellows to go to Germany and do some research or publish latest reports. This project has been also made possible by the support of the European Commission, so our thanks to them as well. And last but not least, I would like to announce that in a couple of weeks from now, we're going to go online with a new website in English that is aiming to explain the German energy transition to the international audience, because as we will hear, there's a lot of talk about what's going on there in Germany, and we think it's important to tell the story from an angle that is easy accessible for an English audience. The idea of this panel is that we will going to start with Osha and take a look at the ebook that you are actually publishing. I've never read an ebook, I have to admit. I may have to buy a Kindle after all after this event. But I hope to learn more about what's in it in the session today. And then we have comments from Anja and Eric, have a conversation on the panel, but also engage the audience. My aim is to wrap up by 10:30, so afterwards, if there's interest of you guys to connect with the speakers, there should be time of that. Yeah, and so without further ado, I would like to hand it over to you, Osha. I'm curious what you have to say.
Me too.